Yes, then everybody, welcome back to Threadman Chazza. We're back on YouTube today with another video, another nice live stream for you all. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're looking forward to the many games you've got coming up in the next month or so. Obviously, 2 against Leeds this week, which is very unprecedented, very interesting. But we'll get into all that. But as always, please do get involved in the comments. Please do like the video if you enjoy. Please do subscribe if you're new as well. And we're going to talk for quite a while today about Leeds. We're going to talk about sort of Qatar, new ownership, what we think about this. So please get involved in the comments, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks a lot, Jaheem, mate. Thanks a lot for coming back as well. Welcome back to you. Welcome back to everyone who's tuning in. Obviously, I'm very glad to be back on YouTube. It's very good to be back. So, Qatar ownership. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about this sort of today, the last few days, about new ownership, about the Glazers, what's going to happen. So let's just bring up a bit of news. Obviously, there's been quite a few different reports that have come out in the last day or so, even just really today, the last few hours or so, we've seen quite a lot of news that's come out. So let's have a look at this new news that's come out about Qatar. So you'll see here, we've got a tweet here from Mike Keegan. So the Qataris want the takeover to be done quickly so they can inject huge funds to help Erik ten Hag immediately. So that's the first. That is the first quote that we've seen. Mike Keegan there on Qatar. So obviously that looks very promising in terms of a takeover. We've also got another tweet here on Qatar as well. So the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, sorry if my pronunciation isn't great there, is interested in buying MUFC. He values the club below the Glazers' £6 billion price, and there is recognition UEFA may have to agree to a regulation change as the country's ruler already owns PSG. That's from Jamie Jackson, and we've got another one, I think, as well. So the Emir of Qatar believes 4.5 billion is a more realistic price for MUFC. So obviously we've got a lot of reports that have come out about Qatar. Very interesting. Please, guys, if you're watching right now, let me know your thoughts on Qatar ownership. We've seen a lot of reports that have come out today about Qatari ownership. Please get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think. Personally, you probably might have seen my tweet. If you haven't, you can go and have a look at that now if you like. A tweet I put out about new owners earlier. For me, I think I'm not so bothered about this money element. I know a lot of people, obviously, whoever comes in is going to have to be very rich and they need to invest in this, that, and the other. I understand that. But I think a lot of people are focusing just on transfers. Oh, bring us somebody in who's going to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. And my thoughts about this are, I don't want Manchester United to act in the same way that Chelsea have done consistently. I think Chelsea, that's probably a one-off window because of everything that was happening. But still, people don't realise that's not a sustainable way to sort of run business at a football club. And I think if we do get new owners, we need sort of, the first thing, we need to wipe off the debt. We need to sort out the stadium issue. So whether you believe that Old Trafford needs to be redeveloped or whether you think it needs to be knocked down and another stadium needs to be built, that situation has to be sorted out. I think that's a massive problem that needs to be sorted out. I think the third element is to communicate with the fans. So we've seen along this sort of horrible stretch of Glazer ownership, there's been no communication. I want to know, what is your plan? So that's the next thing. We need a new footballing structure implemented, and we also need finances to be managed efficiently. I don't want to end up in the situation that Manchester City are in right now. Manchester City are in a massive, massive hole. They'll probably get out of it with a fine or a little points deduction. That's probably might what happen. But I don't want to end up in the same situation as Manchester City. I know Man United and Man City are two completely different entities and brands altogether, but I don't want to end up in a situation of financial fair play. I want things to be run efficiently and managed properly. We've got to remember we've got a manager in place right now, Erik ten Hag, who will also feel the same way. Manchester United have got to make sure the club comes before anybody, yes, but Erik ten Hag has done a very, very good job so far at Manchester United, and he needs the backing of the board. He needs the owners to come in and support him, and I don't want conflicting ideas. So I think it's very important that we get all these steps right. Jaheim says, I want a proper footballing structure at United. Yeah, I fully agree, mate. And this is the point that I make about the investment. Fantastic if whoever will come in and invest their own money in our football club. That's absolutely brilliant, fantastic. But I want to know where that money's going. I want to know what the actual plan is, and that's why I'm holding back on the new ownership sort of debate. People are saying, "Do you want this? Do you want that?" I don't know what they're going to do at Manchester United yet, so I can't really offer a judgment, if that makes sense. Of course, I want new owners, and whoever comes in as new owners will almost certainly be better owners than the Glazers have been, of course, but we need to do things properly, and people need to realise that Manchester United will succeed if we have owners that come in and care about the club, that invest in it, sort out the stadium issue, that communicate with fans, get the fans on side, support the manager, manage the finances efficiently. That's all you've got to do, and Manchester United will succeed. Manchester United will succeed. And I'm not saying I don't want new owners to invest new money in transfers. I'm just saying I want a proper plan. So I want to know, right, is your plan just to come in and spend £200 million on one player, just for the brand element, just for that sort of commercial element? Or are you actually going to come in and support what the manager wants? Are you going to come in and support the manager exactly? Obviously, you need to challenge the manager at times. We've seen in the past, managers don't always get their first choice players. You need the recruitment side, the scouting side to support the manager with that as well, and challenge the manager when they might not agree on a certain signing. But the manager has to have a say. The manager has to understand what are you going to do when you come in. So I think it's very, very important, these steps. That's why I'm saying I don't know Qatari ownership. I can't really say a lot of them in it because I don't know what they're going to do when they come in, how are they going to act, so I can't really give a judgment. So we've got a comment here from Ben Sale. Ben, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. So first step should be to bring in a DOF like Edwards. Yeah, obviously we've seen a lot of sporting directors or directors of football that have gone to other clubs and done a very, very good job. Obviously, Ralph Rangnick was supposed to do some sort of role like that after his management at United, but that obviously went incredibly, incredibly wrong. But that's another debate altogether. But that's a really, really good comment about the footballing structure. Somebody who actually understands the football side of things, and somebody who is competent at making football decisions and understands that you need all these departments to work together in tandem. And that's what I said about Ten Hag. I trust Ten Hag with his transfer targets, but also we need the right the scouting department, the recruitment department side of things. And I don't know a lot about this at United. I haven't done a lot of research around this, but there's obviously something that's been going wrong. In my opinion, I don't actually think it's the scouting side of things as much. I think it's more deciding who to buy. So I think our scouting system is probably not that bad, because if you look over the past and see how many players we've been linked with, how many players we've been scouting, but actually who's made the final decision? Who has made the decision to recruit player X instead of player Y? Who decided to pay this much money for this particular player and not sign that player, if that makes sense? So I think that side of things we've got to improve. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Get your thoughts in the comments. Please do like if you're enjoying as well. Let me know what you think about a Qatari ownership. Sir Jim Radcliffe, Saudi Arabia. We've seen a lot of different links to different owners. So let me know what you guys think. But for me, my view is I don't know what they're going to do yet. So I can't support any particular party of people coming in before I know what their actual plan is. If you're coming in to help Manchester United succeed, absolutely brilliant. But how are you going to do it? I want to know how you're going to do it. Exactly. If a De Jong deal fails, then bring a similar Yeah, exactly. The similar profile. So in the summer, we went from De Jong to Rabiot to Casemiro, which was absolute madness. Obviously, Casemiro has been absolutely brilliant for us. But from a recruitment side of things, from a profile side of things, you couldn't get further away from De Jong and Casemiro, just on different planets, really, in terms of profile. So that's a great point. I think we have got to improve at this. And we've also got to notice that the value on the market. I feel like when you see links come out about other clubs, they seem to find, for example, PSG. I don't know how he's doing that because I don't really watch French football, but Fabian Ruiz went to PSG for 20 million, I think it was. No links to Man United. I think we had a quick link to Man United, or maybe that was Vitinha. We got a few links in the summer. I remember, I think we got linked to Vitinha, and he went to PSG as well. But I think there's a few players that become available at certain points in the summer that have really, really good value. I think Malacia was one of those. I think that's a really, really good value deal. I think that's one of the best value deals we've done for quite a long time. I think a lot of people will think, oh, what's he doing so far? Malacia, he's not playing much. But from what I've seen in Malacia for £12 million or however much it was, I do think that Malacia will come good, and I think he'll be a key player for us. It's about the value for money, and I think a lot of the signings we've done in the past have not been good value for money. And I think you can argue even this summer. A lot of people have said Anthony, Casemiro, etc., and I understand those thoughts. I do understand those thoughts, but you've also got to put it in context. Ajax lost a lot of their best players. We left it till late, hence we overpaid for Anthony. Casemiro, you got to understand, you're negotiating with PSG. They always seem to get a lot of money for these players that are sort of getting in their 30s. The same with, I know Varane was a bit cheaper, but Real Madrid get rid of players for a decent fee, even when they're older. So you have to put context in these situations. Red Dead United TV, what's your thoughts on the Mason Greenwood situation? Yep, so I haven't spoken about this yet. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I personally would not bring him back to the club. I don't exactly know how it's going to work in terms of his contract and things, but for me, I would say no. I don't really want him back at the club, but that's my own opinion. And I think Sancho, yeah, I agree. I think Sancho should start tonight as well, for sure. We'll talk about the Leeds game in a minute. Regarding the Qatari takeover, we can see how PSG works. Not really like Man City. They more like bringing the star players. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, in terms of the money, people, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, they're commenting, oh, brilliant, Qatari. But people don't actually know what they're going to do. You're celebrating, I know, getting rid of the Glazers. Are you just celebrating the Qatari just because they're going to buy you shiny new toys and things like this? We actually need to know what their plan is. What is your plan? If your plan is to go and sign star players to build a brand and all this, I'm not really interested in all that. Of course, if you bring one star player, Kylian Mbappe, absolutely brilliant. So what a brilliant signing that would be. But how are you going to fund that signing? How much wages are you going to pay? What other signings are you going to bring in? How are you going to make sure that the team dynamic is still good even when you bring Mbappe in? So there's a lot of factors to consider. People just, we're going to get new players, but we need to know the proper plan. So I think it's very, very important. Jaheim says, I say sack everyone above 8 Ten Hag. We need a new start. I agree with that. We need a new start. I think there's a lot of people in positions they maybe shouldn't be in. A lot of bad things that we've done in the past. We definitely need a new start, not just with the ownership, but actually below the ownership as well. How are we going to sort those issues out? Okay, let's talk now about the Leeds game. So obviously we had a bit of a chat about the takeover. You can still comment about the takeover if you want. Let me know what you think. But obviously we're playing Leeds tonight and we're playing Leeds on Sunday. Obviously, Jesse March has been sacked. Obviously, his staff are taking charge. I think the guy that actually worked for us, Chris Armas, I don't know what his exact role was, whether he was just an assistant coach. last season for Man United. He's going to take over with another couple of staff for this game. I don't expect Leeds to set up in a particularly different way. People talk about new manager bounce, but they haven't actually got a new manager, so they just got like a caretaker type thing going on. So I think for tonight's game, don't expect much different from Leeds. That's my personal opinion. They're going to come out. They're going to come out with a high press. They're going to come out to be very, very aggressive. They're going to leave a lot of spaces in behind for us. I don't see Leeds changing their strategy, and I think we will get goals tonight simply because of the way that Leeds play. So yeah, this is a good comment. I understand that, but if you think about it, it's just the same staff that have been working under Marsh anyway. So if you think about it, you could say, is he going to change his strategy? But if you think about everywhere that Chris Armas has gone, and I imagine the other coaches as well, they've bought into this very, very high pressing strategy, very, very intense, aggressive football off the ball, trying to go from A to B very quickly, just like Ralf Rangnick sort of talks about for Leipzig as well. So I don't think you might see Leeds players a bit more motivation, things like that. But in terms of the style of play, I don't think it's going to change for this game. So that's what I expect. Jaheim says 3-0 United. Yeah, I do think there'll be more. I think could be even more goals than that. We'll get goals tonight. But let's have a talk about the lineup then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen for this, just because I think it's an interesting discussion. So obviously, Manchester United, we're missing a couple of players tonight that would have played most likely. So obviously, we've got no Anthony. And we've got no Casemiro. So obviously Casemiro is suspended for 3 games. So he'll miss the next 3 games. Casemiro, so he'll miss the double game against Leeds. So 2 games against Leeds and Leicester at home. And obviously Anthony is injured. I haven't seen exactly the extent of that injury, but obviously Anthony is injured. So let's just have a think about the team. So obviously we expect De Gea to be in goal, I imagine, if everybody wants to comment. David De Gea in goal. The back 4, what would you guys do with the back 4? Would you keep the back 4 the same? Let me know what you guys would change. For me, I think it's going to be the same back 4 again. I really do. I think it's going to be Shaw, a left back. I think it's going to be Martinez, left centre back. I think it's going to be Varane, right centre back. And then I think Diogo Dalot still hasn't come on. I don't think he's come on yet since his injury. If anyone wants to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's come on from the bench yet. So I very much doubt if Diogo Dalot will start this game because he's been out for quite a while. But let me know, guys, what you think. That's what I think the back 5 is going to be in terms of De Gea and the back 4. I don't think Dalot is fully ready to start. I'm just going to check this actually, but I don't think Dalot has started a game yet. I'm not sure if he's even played 1 minute yet since he returned from injury, unless I'm mistaken. Diogo Dalot. Yeah, he hasn't played 1 minute yet since his injury. So I'd be very, very surprised if he was brought into this game against Leeds to start anyway. I would start Dalot at right back if he was fit, but I don't think he will. Yeah, I don't think he's quite fit. He's been on the bench. So I think it will be Wan-Bissaka. And if you think about the Leeds left-sided winger, Wilfried, I think it's Noto. I think that's how you pronounce it. So obviously he's very, very good. I think he's Italian. I think he's only about 18 years old, 19 years old, something like that. So their left-sided attacker is very, 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 very quick, very, very good one-on-one, very intense, very, very direct with his dribbling. I think Wan-Bissaka on that right-hand side would be a good move for us anyway, even if Dalot was fit. So I think Ten Hag would have had a conundrum there. Do I play Dalot or do I play Wan-Bissaka? Because obviously Noto is a very, very good player and he's been Leeds' best attacker for a long, long time. Let's talk about the midfield then. Now, this is interesting. Seen some comments through Fred and Sabitzer. And then you've got Rashford on the left, Sancho at 10, interesting, Bruno on the right, and Weghorst up front. So this is obviously an interesting discussion. This would have been an interesting discussion in the midfield area if we had Casemiro, because Ten Hag would have had a choice. Does he start Sabitzer? Does he start Fred? I think if Casemiro wasn't suspended, I think Sabitzer would be on the bench for this game. But obviously, Casemiro is suspended, so there's only 3 recognised midfield players, traditional midfield players that we've got. So in terms of formation, it'll be interesting to see what we do here, whether we do bring Fred slightly deeper next to Sabitzer in a 4-2-3-1. But we've seen Fred very often not taking much part in build-up. Often Fred actually plays the furthest forward. So we actually see Bruno sometimes dropping a little bit deeper to receive possession, and Fred going into this sort of roaming role as a number 10. So whether he does drop Fred back in here next to Sabitzer and goes to a 4-2-3-1, obviously because Sabitzer isn't, his best position isn't as a lone number 6. It'll be interesting, but I do think he will play Sabitzer the deepest in the midfield 3. So I think it'll be a staggered 4-3-3, something like that. So you got like a 6-8-10 situation. You may see Bruno dropping in a little bit deeper, even more than usual, just to help out Sabitzer in there. Obviously, we expect Leeds to be very, very aggressive out of possession with a high press. So it'll be interesting to see what Ten Hag does. But that's the sort of staggered for. If you look at the heat map after the game, I'd imagine it will look something like that in terms of where the players are. So yeah, that's what I expect. I expect Sabitzer to be slightly deeper. Sancho, I hope so. Yeah. So let's talk about the front 3. I would personally, obviously, Rashford will be on the left. Almost certainly he will play. Obviously, if Ten Hag thinks Garnacho should start and Sancho's not quite ready, you'll see Garnacho go to the left and Rashford to the right, probably. But I do hope we do see Jadon Sancho. I would start him. I think he played very, very well against Forest. I think he just needs to start. And then we've only got one striker, really. So it has to be Weghorst. That's the team I'd play. Let me know, guys, in the comments what you guys think. In terms of how we approach this game and the threats that Leeds have, as I've mentioned, obviously Leeds under Bielsa as well, we've seen under Jesse March, they do concede a lot of goals. So they give you a lot of chances. The way they play, how high their line is. Will they play like this against us? We'll see. But as I said, it's the same coaching staff that Marsh was sort of, that were helping Marsh as well, that are taking over this game. So it's very, very difficult when you do have sort of new staff coming in to that sort of caretaker role. So the same staff, but they've got a new role. So you've now got to organise different things. It can be difficult, especially in such a short period of time, to draw up new ideas, new tactical elements. I mean, Marsh was sacked on Monday, I think it was. So, they've literally had 2 full days to prepare for this. So Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 full days to really prepare this Leeds team. So I don't think they're going to do too much different than they were before. And I think that will suit us. I think in terms of, there's a little bit of an argument about Bruno and Sancho. And obviously I talked about this. I did a thread on Sancho as the number 10 against Nottingham Forest in the League Cup. He came on for the last half an hour or so. So we've seen a lot this season. Anthony goes off. And then we tend to bring on another midfield player. Obviously, we don't have that luxury now. We don't have any more midfield players, traditional recognised midfield players. Obviously, you've got Martinez or Lindelof. We've seen them play there before. Martinez for Ajax and Lindelof for us. However, we don't have any midfielders extra to bring on. So normally, obviously, Ten Hag, let's pretend this was Anthony. Anthony goes off and we see Bruno go to the right. And then we see if we had Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, obviously Fred would then come on for the bench and come into midfield, and we'd have Eriksen there as well, or another midfielder there, basically. So obviously we don't have that luxury now. So Ten Hag, it'll be interesting to see what he does here. But I think because we are playing Leeds, I think he will prefer Bruno Fernandes in midfield, simply because of the intensity element. You've also got to understand the fact that there's no Casemiro. You're bringing Sabitzer in. Sabitzer has not started a Manchester United game yet. He doesn't understand how the players play exactly. Obviously, in the training ground, they would have got used to the dynamic a bit together. But what you don't want to do, particularly when you lose a big player like Casemiro, you don't want to make too many changes to a midfield 3. So I think Ten Hag will stick with 2 of his traditional or usual pairings in midfield. So obviously Fred starts some games against the big sides, maybe against the so-called lesser teams. Fred might be on the bench, but Fred and Bruno understand each other already. I'd be surprised from the start anyway if Ten Hag went, right, Sancho, you're going to play with Fred and Sabitzer. I think that midfield 3 might lack a bit of defensive discipline. And I know I say that on Bruno before, particularly under Ollie. Bruno has been operating in very, very high positions in these areas. And I know that Bruno Fernandes has received criticism from me as well about his positional discipline in terms of him pressing on his own, leaving spaces for his midfield players, leaving spaces too open. However, I think with Bruno Fernandes under Erik ten Hag, I think he has become more disciplined both in possession and out of possession. And his work rate's always been really, really good. I just think it's more useful now because our press is more coordinated. So if you think under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we didn't really press and we didn't really sit back. We were sort of in this mid situation, this mid block, and Bruno was going out to trigger the press, but he wasn't being followed strongly by other players. Whereas now, if Bruno does go and press, we've got the trigger there. You see often Bruno is our highest pressing player. So you often see Bruno, ahead of the striker. Weghorst as well is impressed as well with his pressing. But I think with Bruno, his work rate has become more useful simply because it's more effective because we're doing it as a team. So I do think for this game, I do think Ten Hag will want Bruno in midfield. But I do like the idea of Sancho as a number 10 against certain opposition. As I said, against Nottingham Forest, I thought he did really, really well. But I do think for this game, I think Ten Hag will definitely go with the back four. I'm confident he'll go with that midfield three. The only slight worry is Sancho. So let me know, guys, in the comments. Please do like the video if you're enjoying so far. Do subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments, would you start Jadon Sancho tonight? Or would you put Garnacho on the left, move Rashford to the right? Would you... I'm trying to think of other wide players we have. We'll just start Pellistri on the right if Sancho isn't ready. What would you guys do? So let me know in the comments, guys. Do you want to see Jadon Sancho start tonight? Because I certainly do. I certainly want to see him start. And I think with the amount of fixtures we've got coming up, this is one of the lowest risk fixtures. Although it's against Leeds, we're at home. You've got the crowd behind you. I wouldn't introduce Sancho from the start against Leeds away if he hadn't started a game already, if that makes sense. And I also wouldn't want to introduce Sancho at Barcelona. I think this man, whatever he suffered with, we don't know exactly, but whatever Jadon Sancho was suffered with, you have to put him in the right environment to make sure that he can perform well. And I think if you don't start Sancho tonight, the next time you've got to start him is really next Sunday against Leicester at home. So if you want Sancho to be up to speed for all these important games we've got coming up, you really want him to start as soon as possible, or at least play an hour. When I say start and play 90 minutes, play an hour, play 70 minutes, just start a game. And hopefully tonight it is for Sancho. But let me know what you guys think. Jaheim says, not a bad team. Yeah, it isn't a bad team. It isn't a bad team. I think we lack something in midfield there with a bit of discipline positional-wise. But I think against Leeds, the games against Leeds, there's going to be so many transitions. If Leeds set up the same way they have under March already this season, there's going to be so many transitions. The likes of Fred, Sabitzer and Bruno, that midfield three is full of intensity, aggression, energy. That team is full of players, that midfield is full of players who can quickly distribute the ball forwards, vertical passes into Rashford, into Sancho, into Weghorst's feet. So I do think that midfield three can actually suit this type of game. And if you also think, just one more point, about the lack of tall profile we have in there. So obviously in the Premier League, if you look at all the Premier Leagues, teams that have won the league in the past, they tend to have, not always, but it's an anomaly if they don't. They tend to have a very tall, physical midfield player in that midfield. Back in the Premier League days, it's slightly changed a bit more nowadays because the game's got a bit more technical. But still, even the likes of Barcelona, Sergio Busquets, he's not really a destroyer type, but he's a tall profile in there. And a lot of teams down the years who have won Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, whatever league you want to name, they've had that physically imposing dominant midfield player, whether if it is a midfield three. It's a bit different if you play a back three because you've got more you taller profiles behind you. But that is the only issue with that midfield. We don't have that. But the counter argument to that, Leeds don't have one either. So Leeds don't have a 6'3" dominant midfield player. They don't play with a particularly target man striker either. I wouldn't call Bamford a target man. So I think a lack of tall profile in there for these two games against Leeds is not going to harm us too much. So I think we'll be okay. Duncan, thanks a lot for coming along, mate. Thanks a lot to everyone who's joined in so far. Let Sancho start, then bring Alejandro second half. Yeah, I think Alejandro Garnacho's best work often comes as a sub. And that's not a criticism of him. That's actually a massive, massive positive. Because if you've got a player that can come on and impact games in the last 20, 30 minutes, that is a huge, huge benefit for us. It's a massive, massive benefit. And if you think about the games, he's come on against City, he's come on, or he started the game. I can't remember away to Fulham. I think he might have come on as a sub when he scored that goal against Fulham as well. If you think about the impact that Garnacho has had as a substitute this season, there's a lot of times you can see, even if he doesn't score a goal, even if he doesn't get an assist, he's had a big, big impact. Yeah, it was a sub against Fulham. So that goal he scored away at Fulham was as a sub as well. So yeah, I agree. I think Garnacho has contributed a lot to us sort of in the second half of games. So let me stop sharing my screen. So obviously that's the team that maybe I expect us to go with. I think Sancho is a question mark. I do think Sancho is a question mark. I do think there's a possibility that he won't start. Quite a big possibility. It's just I'm just unsure, and I think that's generally because he hasn't played many minutes. But I do think for this game, that team that I put up, I do think that'll be enough. I do think we'll beat Leeds tonight. Get your score predictions in below, guys. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys want to talk about the ownership as well, what do you think about the Qatari ownership? What do you think about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Saudi Arabia, all the different links we've heard to different possible owners? What do you guys think about these new owners that could come in? Who would you like? I've made my points already. I don't know what they're going to offer yet, so I can't really say much. Duncan says, even last game, came on as a sub and had a huge impact on the Rashford goal. Yeah. And it's the same, I think, with Anthony as well. Anthony, it's quite like a black and white with Anthony in terms of you either absolutely love him or you absolutely hate him. There seems a lot of people that really don't like Anthony, and I'm sort of in the middle somewhere. I'm probably more towards liking him, actually. I said in the summer, I don't think he's worth that money. But with Anthony, I think he brings a balance to this team that people don't recognise at times. Firstly, holding the width, stretching the opposition laterally, so stretching the width of the pitch. If Anthony's on the pitch on that right-hand side, that's going to stretch the opposition's back line. So Anthony's going to hug the touchline. It's going to stretch the opposition. The second point, Anthony's first instinct is not to shoot always. I think he has got to cut out a few of his long shots that he does, but Anthony doesn't always run to the goal as quickly as possible like Rashford does. And that gives us a nice balance because we have a ball-to-feet player and a very direct player in Rashford. So I think with Anthony, I think he does get a bit too much criticism at times. People just expect him to do wonderful things all the time. If you look at his time from Ajax, Anthony never scored like 25 goals a season or something like that. I think he tends to get like 10 goals and 12 assists, 15 goals and 9 assists. So like 25 goals and assists maximum added up together. And people think, oh, that's not very good and all this. But you've got to understand the balance. You know, not every player is on a pitch to score goals. And I think people don't understand that. So I think with Anthony, I hope he comes back soon because I think he is more important than people think. But I think having Sancho back is absolutely vital. If we didn't have Jadon Sancho back, I think we could be in trouble without Anthony because I don't think we've got... I know Pellistri obviously shown promise, but is he ready? Does Ten Hag think he's ready? We just don't know. Do you think we'll hear about different potential buyers of United this week? Yeah, I think I think we're going to hear news, but I think this is going to go on for quite a few months. This talk, even if we know who's going to buy us, I don't think it's going to go through straight away. So I think even if we hear, oh, these are the front runners, the Qataris are the front runners, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe's the front runner, it's not going to happen instantly. You know, we're not going to get new owners just like that. We might know who the most likely is. We might sort of hear about deals that are being done and bids that are going in. But I do think this is going to take many, many months just because of how complicated the deal is going to be. I mean, you're buying one of the biggest brands ever in Manchester United, so you know it's not going to be an easy thing to do. But I hope we hear more. I hope we hear more, and I hope we get a lot of competition as well. I want to see how many people are going to be involved. I want to hear their plans, and we'll see what we think. So yes, guys, if you've got any more questions, please get involved in the comments. As always, thanks a lot for coming along. Everyone who's come along so far, please do like the video if you're enjoying as well. I'm trying to do sort of at the moment. I'm trying to do at least one live show a week, just because of work and sort of university. It's quite difficult, but I'm trying to do one live show at least a week, and then sort of one or two analytical, whether it's a YouTube short and a analytical video like the Sancho one I did last week. I'm trying to do that every week, and then I'm also on TikTok as well at Threadman Chazza, and Twitter obviously at Threadman Chazza. So there's a lot of content coming out for you guys at the minute. So please do get involved. I really appreciate all the support. If you've got any more questions, please do let me know what you think about today's game, score predictions. Sunday's game as well is obviously going to be a different test altogether. I'd be very, very happy if we got out of today and Sunday with 6 points. I'd be delighted. I think 4 points. Obviously, I wouldn't like to drop points at Leeds, but I think Leeds away is going to be a very difficult test. I think that will be very, very difficult, but I do think we will win tonight. I'm going to go for a 4. I'm going to go 4-1 to United tonight. I do think we will score goals. I do think we will win tonight. But let me know, guys, your score predictions in the comments. How many goals are we going to get tonight? Do you think we're going to win tonight? I think we've got a great record against Leeds at home. So, you know, you'd expect Manchester United to win, but we've seen stranger things happen. Do you think we're going to miss Casemiro? Let me know, guys, in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Jaheim says Sunday's game will be difficult. Yeah, and I think Casemiro will be a bigger loss for Sunday than he will be for today. I think going to Leeds in that sort of atmosphere, you need experience. You need a bit of know-how. You need players with a bit of pauser, so players who can put their foot on the top of the ball and just say, right, we're not going to buy into this Leeds mayhem. We're actually going to try and play our way out. We're going to keep a bit of possession. We're going to try and get a bit quiet in the crowd down a bit. We need a bit of that experience, and I think we've improved sort of know-how. I think with Martinez and Varane at the back in particular, the way they galvanised the Old Trafford, the stands and everything at the end of that game against Crystal Palace, the way they do it all the time, trying to galvanise the crowd. You know, I think we've got more know-how, a bit more experience, a bit more nastiness in us this season, which I think is brilliant. And I've been calling this for a long time. I've been calling for this for many, many months. I've been saying we've got too many players at Man United who don't know what to do in certain situations, how to see a game out, how to get the crowd involved, how to be a bit nasty to the opposition, get into people's faces. And I think we have improved at that slightly. But on the other side of the spectrum, Casemiro maybe does it a bit too much and then gets sent off. So we've got to be careful. We've obviously got to keep our composure. And as Duncan says, yeah, Casemiro has been so good. We'll miss him. We will miss him. And I think on this point, about the red card, obviously everyone has their own opinion. And I always say, if you put your hands above someone's shoulder in the Premier League, you're always going to be in trouble. And that's just the rule. However, from Casemiro's point of view, firstly, Ayew should have been sent off as well, correct? But from Casemiro's point of view, I'm a bit disappointed that he couldn't handle himself. I think away at Palace as well, bringing down Zaha when he was running through on goal, I know you could say he had to make that challenge. Obviously, that was the challenge that got him out of the Arsenal game. So he got suspended, obviously, for the Arsenal game. So I do think Casemiro has got to, and I've got no business telling a 5-time Champions League winner what to do. But I'm just saying, from a fan's point of view, just my own opinion, I think Casemiro has got to be a bit more careful in certain situations, because he sometimes doesn't realise how important he is for us, and how little direct replacement we have for him when he's not playing. So what I would say is to Casemiro, please, you don't need to do those sort of things. Obviously, putting his hands on the collar or the throat or the neck or whatever it was of Will Hughes, you know, I just wish he wouldn't have done that. And I think his temperament, I just hope he learns from that and realises, I can't do this in the Premier League, so I'm not going to do it again. So, yeah, I think he's been very good for us, but I think he has to improve his temperament at times in those sort of situations. And I hope he does, because he's, as I said, he's extremely important to us. Okay, guys, get any more questions in below. If you've got any more questions, let me know. Obviously, with what's happening with Manchester City as well, it's very interesting. Arsenal have got to play Brentford, I think, at the weekend, and then they've got to play Man City in the week. I think next week, I think they've got to play Man City. So if Manchester United can get these 2 wins this week, particularly tonight, we've got to win tonight. we just keep a bit of pressure on. As I said, I don't think we will win the title. On Twitter, I put a few interesting tweets out. It's a bit shameless at times to try and get a bit of a see what people are saying in the comments, get a bit of a reaction from all the other fans. But I have said a few times on Twitter, Manchester United if they keep winning their games, they will be involved not far off from first place. And the reason being, we played City and Arsenal twice. City and Arsenal have got to play each other twice. So just literally mathematically, if Manchester United keep winning, we will eventually catch up on at least one of those teams, because obviously they're going to drop points against each other. So all we can do as a team is just keep winning our games. If with 30 games played, we're within 5 points, 5 or 6 points of the title, that would be an incredible achievement. Even if we don't win it, that would be an incredible achievement. If we are within 5 or 6 points of the title, we have to be considered, after about 28 games, something like that, we have to be considered with a chance. Of course we do. Do I think we'll win? Do I think we'll be a few points behind come the end of the season? I don't know. I'm not sure. We've still got to go to Anfield. We've still got to go to Spurs. We've still got to go to Newcastle. We've obviously been to City. We've been to Chelsea. We've been to Arsenal. And so obviously we've been to those 3 grounds, but we've still got to go to Newcastle, Spurs and Liverpool. Even though Liverpool are not playing well and all this, obviously it's still Anfield's going to be a tough game. Obviously we've got to go to Leeds on Sunday. I think we've still got to go to West Ham, although they're not playing well. West Ham away is never easy. I'm just trying to think who else we've got to go to. Brighton away. We've still got to go to Brighton. So we've still got these tough tests to pass. But as Duncan says, you never know. Fingers crossed. The Man City thing is going to be really interesting, because if Man City receive a points deduction this season, then there's only really, obviously you've got Arsenal will be the front runners, the favourites, and then you've got United, maybe Newcastle, you've got Spurs probably a bit too far behind, but you'd say probably United after City are the most likely then to challenge Arsenal. So let's just see how it goes. As I said, I don't think we'll be there come the end of the season, but why not, try and get as high as you can? That's the whole point of the league. The more games you win as well, the further away you get away from the top 4 argument. If we do go far in the Europa League, if we do go far in the FA Cup, what you want to say is, 5 games to go in the league. We're mathematically definitely in the top 4. Fantastic. The league, okay, obviously we'll still put out a reasonably strong team, keep players fit, keep the motions running. Ten Hag doesn't like to rotate much, obviously. He wants to keep the rhythm going. But the league now, what you want to say really, if we don't win the league and if we're not in the title race, you want to be as far away from the top 4 as possible. So you want to be as far away from 5th, 6th. You want to be, comfortably in that top 4. So then we can focus on, if we are still in them, the FA Cup and the Europa League. So I think Manchester United have just got to try and keep winning football matches. We've won 13 in a row at home. I've looked at our results recently at home, and it's on flash scores, and you can just see green, 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 and it's actually so refreshing just to see win, W, 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 these amount of wins that we're picking up. So if we get 9 points in our next 3 league games, we've got Leeds at home, Leeds away, and Leicester at home, then Manchester United mathematically, if Arsenal lose to Man City in particular, and Man United win their next 3 games, Man United will mathematically be quite close to Arsenal. And that doesn't mean that Man United are going to be winning the title. It just means we're in with a chance. You can't count us out completely. And, this Arsenal team, what we've got to remember is Manchester City don't look themselves this season. I've looked at their fixtures after Arsenal, and they have got favourable fixtures, but they might get a points deduction. If they get a points deduction and or keep dropping points here and there, we've got to realise Arsenal, a lot of their players have never been in this situation before. If you look at the likes of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, obviously they have. I think Thomas Partey might have won something with Atletico Madrid, maybe the league, I can't remember. But a lot of these Arsenal players are not used to winning Premier League titles or massive honours. Quite a lot of Manchester United players are. David De Gea has won a lot of honours. Casemiro, Varane, Martinez has won the World Cup. Diogo Dalot has won something with Portugal, the Nations League, and he's won things with Porto in the past. Bruno Fernandes has won a few cups with Sporting, I think, and Rashford's obviously won some trophies. Martial has, blah, 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 and I could go on and on. Arsenal are not used to being in this sort of situation with the pressure on them. If Manchester United are 5 or 6 points behind with 10 games to go, just apply a little bit of pressure, win our game, and then see what happens to Arsenal. Or Arsenal drop a couple of points and then we win our game. It closes slightly. You just never know in football what might happen. So I think Manchester United just keep winning football matches and we'll see where we go. There's no reason for Manchester United fans not to be excited at the minute. I was thinking about this game tonight. I'm going to the game tonight at Old Trafford. I was thinking, I actually can't believe that we've won 13 home games in a row. I can't believe that we're in such good form. And I was thinking, if we don't win tonight, I'd be shocked and I'd be really gutted just because we're so used to winning games at the minute. We just got to keep it going. Let's get through a few comments then. So mathematically possible, but still on Europa League and FA Cup. And unfortunately, our squad not that deep. If Barcelona beat us and somehow West Ham as well and City, Arsenal is focused, then I really maybe. Yeah. And this is a good comment as well. That was a good comment from you and Jaheim as well about the Europa League. This is my thoughts. Honestly, these are my thoughts. Manchester United's best chance of winning a trophy this season is the Carabao Cup. Obviously, we're in a final. You're playing against Newcastle. It's going to be a tough game, probably going to be a tough game. Newcastle are playing well. But statistically, the furthest competition we're in is the Carabao Cup. You're 90 minutes, 120 minutes, a penalty shootout away from winning a cup. So Manchester United have to prioritise that cup over anything else around that period. That's my opinion. Now, obviously, the way the periods fell is very unfortunate for us. And the fact that we got a dodgy decision at home to Sociedad basically means that we finished second in our group, which means we have to play a playoff against Barcelona, which is a pain in the backside. It really is. What I would do, this is my honest opinion, I would judge how the league's going as well. So judge how that league's going at the minute. If we get a good results in our next few games, let's be honest, if we get 9 points in our next 3 games, Manchester United almost certainly will finish in the top 4, I think. I think Man United will be more or less nailed on. Obviously, you never know in football, but Manchester United, if we win our next 3 games, mathematically, we're looking very, very, very strong. And if Newcastle drop a few points, things like that, Spurs, but blah, 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 I think we'll be in a really, really good position. The main reason we went for the Europa League under Jose, obviously to win a trophy, to finish in the top 4, to get into the Champions League, that's the equivalent. So I think the Europa League is most important to teams that aren't going to qualify for the Champions League. It's a European competition. Of course, it's absolutely brilliant to win a European competition. I would love to win the Europa League. I would love it. I think the Europa League gets dismissed by quite a few people in terms of the actual trophy element as well. I think obviously the main element, for teams that haven't qualified for the Champions League is, we're going to get into the Champions League. But also to win a trophy under a new manager in your first season, the confidence that's going to give to players, the manager, or the fans, it's going to be a massive, massive moment, particularly because it's a European competition that we're going to win. However, we don't have the squad to play our best team against Barcelona away, the League Cup final, Barcelona at home, etc. I don't think we have the best. I don't think we have the amount of depth we need to be able to cope with all these games. So honestly, what I would do, I know I've gone round the houses with this. I've been speaking for so long about this particular thing, but I would play a reasonably strong team at the Nou Camp. So that's what I'd do. I'd play a reasonably strong team at the Nou Camp. I would try and get some sort of advantage, obviously. So I'll play a reasonably strong team at the Nou Camp. So that's obviously next Thursday. Ten Hag will probably go with a strong side there. Try and get an away goal. Try and just not lose the game. I think away at Barcelona, not to lose, will be a good result for us. And then we judge we judge the situation when we come back, obviously before the League Cup final. So are we losing by 2 or more goals? If we are, I would forget it. If we're still in with a chance, I would play, again, a reasonably strong team in the second leg as well. If we're in with a chance, I would still play a reasonably strong team. I would rest 1 or 2 massive players. But I still think Ten Hag will play a reasonably strong team. And by that, I mean a few changes, from the normal. So honestly, I would see how it goes the next few games in the league. But I don't think Ten Hag's going to throw it away completely, but I would prioritise the League Cup. That's what I'd do. Top 4 in a cup would be a huge overachievement. Fully agree. Thanks a lot for coming along, Jordan. It will be a banger for sure. It will be a banger. It'll be a great, great game. But I'm more focused on the League Cup final, just because I think it's more important for us. If you also think about the Barcelona game, we've got to play 2 games the round of 32, 2 games round of 16, 2 games semi-final, quarterfinal, 2 games quarterfinal, and then a final. So you've got to play, 9 games, isn't it? So 2 in 32, 2 in 16, 2 in the quarters, 2 in the semis, and 1 in the final. So you've got to play 9 matches. You've got to play 8 matches to even get to the same situation we're in to win the Carabao Cup, if that makes sense. So if we did go through against Barcelona, if we went all the way to the final, what's the impact of that on our league form? What's the impact of that on our FA Cup run as well? Obviously, we're already in the 5th round, I think, of the FA Cup. So we're in the round of 16 of the FA Cup already. So these are the things we've got to draw up. And I think let's just see how the FA Cup goes. Let's see how the league goes the next few games, and let's judge the Europa League. But my overall opinion, I'm not seeing the Europa League as a priority compared to the other competitions, just because you've got to play 8 games to even get to the bloody final. And that you might not even win it. You've got a lot of good teams in the Europa League. So I think it is going to be tough. And I don't think we've got the squad to really cover everything. However, with Man United, we're in 4 competitions. Let's try and win them all. Let's try and do what we can to win them all. You might get a bit of luck. We might make changes for that Barcelona game. You might get a bit of luck. You still might get a good result. You just never know. De Gea, Malacia, Shaw, Varane, Dalot, Casemiro, Sabitzer. Yeah, I think the first leg, obviously Martinez is suspended, isn't he? So it could actually work as a positive for us. He gets a bit of a rest in that game. But the first leg, I would go with a strong team, because that's next Thursday, the 16th. So next Thursday, the 16th. And then we don't play the final until 10 days later, the 26th. So I think the 16th, I think we should go for pretty much a reasonably strong team, or a very strong team. Try and get a result out there in Barcelona. And then the second leg, just try and manage what we have, really. If we have a good lead, manage it. If we're 2 or more down from the first leg, I would then forget it. That's the only exception. I'd say completely forget it, play the youth, forget the Europa League. So that's what I'd do. I don't know whether you guys agree. I don't like throwing competitions away, but if you put a strong team out in one competition, that could jeopardize you winning another competition, and you're 90 minutes away from winning another competition. We're not definitely going to win it, but you want to give yourself the best chance you've got of winning it, the Carabao Cup. So I think that's where we are. I feel the same. I'm still a bit bitter towards Barcelona after the summer. I would like to knock Barcelona out, to be honest with you, but if we did if we did get a loss in that game, if we did lose that game, I'd say if we won the Carabao Cup the next Sunday, on the Sunday, I'd be thinking, well, yeah, fair enough. But if we get knocked out against Barcelona and we lose the Carabao Cup final, that might hurt a bit. So I think it's all sort of put in perspective. We'll see what happens. But this is the problem with football. You can't predict what's going to happen. So Ten Hag, obviously, he doesn't like to rotate a lot. But Erik Ten Hag, whatever he does in that Barcelona first leg, you just never know what's going to happen. He could put out his best team in that first leg. We could get beat 4-0. He could put his best team out in that first leg. We might win 3-1, 2-1. We might get a really good result. In the second leg, he might make a load of changes to protect the players for the final of the Carabao Cup. But actually, those players that have come in, they want to impress. They want to get more game time. They put in a really good performance, and we get through it. And Ten Hag he'll look at that at the end. We win the Carabao Cup as well. You've got the perfect scenario. You've rested your players for the Carabao Cup final. You've got through in the second leg, and you've won the Carabao Cup final. So that's the dream scenario. Obviously, the worst scenario is that we play a poor team in the second leg. We get knocked out. I know I'm rambling on here, but there's so much to it. There's so many dynamics to it. If we play a poor team in the, or not a poor team, but, a rested team, a second side against Barcelona in the second leg, to rest our best players for the Carabao Cup final, we get knocked out of the Europa League and we lose the final. So that's the worst case scenario you've got. So who'd want to be Erik ten Hag for the? I would hate to. I mean, I'd love to be the Manchester United manager one day, but I'd absolutely hate to be Erik ten Hag in these next few weeks in terms of what to do. It is such a difficult situation. You've also got the league to focus on. You've also got the bloody FA Cup as well. What are you going to do in there? You know, the FA Cup. I hope we play a strong team in the FA Cup, but I think that's on the 1st of March. So that's literally a few days after the Carabao Cup final. So what's he going to do there? So, oh my goodness, it's really, really difficult. That's true. The Europa League has the biggest prestige, but that's the longest run as well. Exactly. That's the problem. You're also traveling. I know people might think, oh, it doesn't make much difference, but it does make a difference. You're traveling all over the place. You're playing two-legged ties. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So it's also interesting to see what Arsenal are going to do. Because if I was Arsenal, I would just say, forget the Europa League. If I was Arsenal, I would just say, forget it. But obviously, they're in a bit of a different situation than we are. Jordan's right. Media waiting with their narratives. And it's also the fans will be waiting. The people who are critical of Ten Hag, they'll also be waiting as well, Jordan. So what I've just said there, I'd hate to be Erik ten Hag. What people will do, if Ten Hag rests a load of players for Barcelona and we lose or get knocked out and then we lose the Carabao Cup final, everyone will be saying, oh, why didn't Ten Hag just play a strong team against Barcelona? People don't understand what's at play, the dynamics, how difficult it is to make these decisions. And that's why I'm sat at home here talking to you guys and I'm not Erik ten Hag and I'm bloody glad I'm not Erik ten Hag for these next few games because I would hate to have that decision, how he's going to handle it. The criticisms he's going to get, you know, you might get an injury. Everyone's going to blame Ten Hag for playing them and somebody might get suspended or, you know, you just never know what's going to happen in football. And this is why football managers, you know, this is why it's a tough job because you have scenarios like this where you can win. The only way you win against this scenario is if you play Barcelona, you get a good lead in the first leg with a strong team. You play the second leg, you rest your best players, you get through it, and you win the Carabao Cup final as well. That's the only way Ten Hag gets all his flowers. As I said, on the other side, he could get all the criticism. So this is a really, really interesting, difficult conundrum. And I find it really interesting to talk about it because it's got so many different dynamics, so many different competitions. And I'm glad we have this argument. I'm glad that we're having this debate because last season, you know, seasons before, we haven't been in any competitions. You know, we've been knocked out of so many things. And I'm so happy that we're in so many competitions at the moment. Although we may get knocked out of something soon and we have to prioritize something else, at least we've had the choice to be able to do that. So I think that's brilliant. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks a lot for coming along. Really, really appreciate that. We are going to wrap it up anyway. We're getting towards the hour mark, you know, time for a bit of lunch. I've got to get on the train as well to Manchester to watch Manchester United against Leeds tonight. Thanks for everybody who's come along. I really, really appreciate it. Please do smash a like on the video if you enjoyed the video. We're trying to do at least one live show a week plus one analytical show or one tactical show a week, sort of a review of a game, a player's performance, etc. So hopefully after tonight's game, tomorrow I can get working. Tomorrow and Friday, probably tomorrow I'll get working on a video covering if we have a good performance tonight, a good player, a man of the match, a really good performance, I can cover that, or a good tactical debate, we can do that as well. So I really, really appreciate all the support. One live show a week, hopefully, at least, and a tactical or analytical show as well, plus the YouTube shorts, plus the TikTok videos, plus the threads. We're very, very busy at the moment, but I really appreciate all the support. Thanks a lot, mate. I've got a season ticket. Yeah, I've got a season ticket. So yes, I go to many, many games. So I've got a season ticket there. Thanks a lot, Jaheem. Thanks a lot to everyone who's come along. Please do subscribe if you're new. Get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think about this squad rotation, the Europa League. What would you do? As I said, we're not being paid to sort this sort of situation out, so we don't need to worry too much about whether we're right or wrong. It's Ten Hag who's going to have the final say and his staff, so I don't envy them, but let's see how he does it. Let's hope we get a win tonight. Let's hope we also get a win on Sunday against Leeds, another win next Sunday against Leicester as well in the league, and we've got 9 points out of 9 in the next week or so. That'll be really, really good. Keep the pressure on Arsenal. But I really appreciate all the support, guys. It's been a great, great show. Thanks a lot to everybody for tuning in, and I'll be back soon with another video. Peace.